this you, or is this your
Gilbert Bushin, try to keep it low.
So is this you, or is this? So you do all these different things.
No, that's literally me.
So do you have?
Is this not someone else who did this? I was living in the factory in Fremont, and the one in Nevada for 3 years straight. That was my primary residence. Not kidding, literally.
Did you keep the couch?
I actually slept in a couch at one point in a tent on the roof, and then, but for a while there, I was just sleeping under my desk, which is out in the open in the factory, and for an important reason. And it was damn uncomfortable sleeping on that floor. And always, when I woke up, I'd smell like metal dust.
We went to visit, and they bought him a new couch.
Yeah, but actually, I stopped using the couch because there's a little conference room and a couch there. I stopped using the couch, and I just slept on the floor under my desk, so during shift change, the entire team could see me. And this is important because, like, you know, the team, if they think the sort of their leader is off somewhere having a good time, you know, drinking Mai Tais on a tropical island, which I could definitely have been doing and would much have preferred to do. I'm not actually a masochist, I think. But the thing is that since the team could see me sleeping on the floor during shift change, with nothing, they knew I was there, and that made a huge difference. And then they gave it their all.
So the focus is on always lowering cost and providing leadership. And this company, we're doing 1.5 million cars a year, but you expect to do 20. And so what happens in 10 years if you're not there? What happens in 5 years if you're not there? How does that work? I mean, are there all these people? So at all the engineering schools, the top engineering schools, the top choice of where everybody wants to work is Tesla or SpaceX. Those two places. So do we have all these people coming up and fighting each other for the job, or they're working together? How do you get people to say, gee, I could buy that real expensive house, but I'm not going to do that. Boy, I could go out on vacation. I'm not going to.
Well, we do have that problem a little bit. So, you know, as a company has prosperity, and then people become wealthy, then for a lot of people, you know, that once they become sort of independently wealthy, they just can't bring themselves to work, or they don't want to work, and that's totally, you know, understandable. And no judgment. And so, I mean, I have a lot of friends who are extremely talented, and they you know, had some success earlier in life, and they just decided, you know, that was enough trauma. I mean, you know, one of my good friend of mine saying, like, for starting a company is like eating glass and staring into the abyss. So when people tell me, like, well, what can you do to encourage entrepreneurs to start companies? I'm like, if you need encouragement, don't start a company.
In SpaceX, and so we have you know, competitors, sort of, I guess. So SLS, and you know, I read about. That's not, you know, it's just Boeing, Northrop, and Lockheed. And with those guys, when they build the launching pad, it took them like 10 years and billions of dollars. And we had to build a launching pad, and it cost a few $100 million, and did it in 6 months. And then I was interested in how that was done. And the woman I'm talking to says that, Ron, did you see the plumbing when you went there? I said, why should it cost hundreds of millions of dollars? It looks like it's a landing field. And I said, would you see what's underneath? Did you see the plumbing? And I said, no, they didn't show that to me. And then she said, well, you should be aware that there's all these pipes that take away the heat, and then they all deliver fuel to the rocket, and it has to be there in an exact right amount at the exact right time, and if it's not, if that doesn't happen, it blows up. And so I said, well, how does Elon know this? and because you hire these great people and then you ask them all these questions, and then somehow you remember everything they tell you. Is that true?
Well, my memory for technical matters is very good, and but I think probably a lot of people don't realize, like, what I do 80% of the time is engineering. So it's actually quite rare for me to give a talk, and my day-to-day work at SpaceX and Tesla is almost entirely engineering and design. So. And also production. Production is key, but although I consider that to be part of engineering. But Starship is something special. The thing that is like the holy grail, like the critical breakthrough needed to make life multiplanetary and for humanity to be a spacefaring civilization is a fully and rapidly reusable rocket, orbital rocket. And so we've gone most of the way there with Falcon 9. You may have seen the rocket booster come back and land. And we also recover the nose cone or fairing, but we do not recover the upper stage. So we've gotten to the point where we're about 70 to 80% reusable with Falcon 9. With Starship, we're going for 100% reusable. It's difficult to say how profound a change this will be, but a fully and rapidly reusable orbital rocket has the potential to drop the cost of access to space by a factor of 1,000.
Factor of 1,000.
1,000. And I should say also, Starship it's a very, very big rocket. It's more than twice the thrust of a Saturn V, and about twice the mass. And it's also the entire ship is designed to land propulsively, so it can land
to do what? I didn't hear.
To land on its engines, to land propulsively, so it can land on any solid surface in the solar system. So if we can make Starship work, then it enables us to, over time, get anywhere in the solar system.
So why is it so hard? Why don't other people do the same thing? So everyone says it's impossible.
Why is it so hard?
And how much harder is it to do what we're trying to do than we're doing with Falcon?
Well, so let's see. Earth's gravity is actually quite strong, and we have a thick atmosphere. So with known physics, it is only barely possible to make a fully reusable orbital rocket. Only barely possible. If this was a video game, the setting is to extreme difficulty. Not impossible, but extreme difficulty. Because it's not like those who have developed rockets before weren't aware of reusability. They were fully aware.
Sell more rockets.
They're fully aware of reusability. That aircraft and cars are reusable. It's just that in order for a rocket to be reusable, everything has to be perfect. So you have to have exceptionally efficient engines. You have to have an exceptionally efficient structure. You need advanced avionics and software. You need a very lightweight heat shield for orbital reentry. And then another key factor for traveling to Mars is you need orbital refilling, so that you get the ship to orbit, and then you send up tankers to refill the ship in orbit, just like is done by the Air Force with aerial refueling. Those are the things that are necessary, and it's never been achieved before. There have been many attempts to achieve it, and they've all been basically they all failed, and they usually had canceled the program partway through once they thought it was no longer possible. So it's just a very difficult engineering challenge.
So SLS is supposed to get to the moon. They got a contract in 2010, and it was supposed to be for $10 billion, but it was cost plus. It's now up to $40 billion, and they say it's going to be $100 billion and $90 billion. Yeah. and we haven't gotten anything. And our rocket is 10 meters taller than theirs, and we can reuse ours. So how can anyone possibly compete if they're not doing what we're doing? How can they compete? I don't understand. And how can they get contracts? And then I just saw something from NASA, and they said that we're spending $20 billion a year, and oh, by the way, that's 360,000 jobs in all these congressional districts.
Well, I think I have to be careful of what I say here. I have enough enemies. I would like to have. Yes, I would like to have a smaller number of companies that want me to die. That would be great. So, but like I said, a big part of this is like, what's the goal? In the case of Starship, the goal is to lower the cost of access to orbit and ultimately to Mars and the Moon and elsewhere, to the point where humanity can actually afford to become a multi-planet species, to the point where we can afford to have a permanent base on the Moon and ultimately far exceed the high watermark of Apollo, which was incredible and I think inspiring to all of humanity, everyone. If you were to ask people, I think almost in any country, not Americans, anyone, what was humanity's greatest achievement in the 20th century? Maybe ever.
Space.
Go to the Moon. And that's why they say moonshot as a metaphor, because that was incredible. Still amazing that was achieved. In fact, a lot of people ask me, was it real? And I'm like, yeah, it was real.
Well, it's probably on Twitter. That's where they ask that.
Yeah. That was just an incredible achievement, and I think it's just one of those things that, going to the Moon makes you proud to be a member of humanity. It's like for all mankind. It was for all mankind.
So it's amazing achievements, and now we have this Webb telescope. They can, I guess the Big Bang was 14 billion years ago, and first light is 13.5 billion years ago, and our planet's 4.5 billion. So what do we get out of this? What is the, so obviously Starlink, a really big deal,
yeah.
$1 trillion opportunity, maybe more. And
maybe.
Right? And so what do we get out of seeing back 13.5 billion years? What does that do for us? What technology do we develop? Or do what we know? We don't know until we do it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. I think there's two main motivations, I think, for becoming a multi-planet species and a spacefaring civilization, and then ultimately going beyond that to go to other star systems and explore the galaxy. And I think we may find that there's many one-planet civilizations that died out millions of years ago and never made it to the second planet.
Do you think in your lifetime that happens?
Well, it depends how long I live.
Maybe forever.
If I keep increasing that enemies list, it might not be much longer. It would be deeply ironic if it's someone angry on Twitter that takes me out.
Well, now you can keep them off Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I think there's two reasons for life to become multiplanetary, life as we know it to become multiplanetary. I think one is the defensive reason, where I think we want the light of consciousness to not be extinguished if something were to happen to Earth. In the case of the dinosaurs, they only had to worry about meteors and supervolcanoes and other things. But for us humans, we actually have the power to destroy ourselves with nuclear weapons, or some sort of, crazy bioterrorism thing. So, so there's some danger that is not zero that could cause the end of life on Earth as we know it. So that's kind of the defensive reason to ensure that life is not just, and consciousness is not only on Earth. That's the defensive reason to protect the future of consciousness. Then the other big reason, I think, is that it's exciting, and it's adventurous, and it's inspiring, and makes it makes you think positively about the future, and life can't just be about solving one problem or another. There need to be reasons to be inspired, reasons that move your heart and say, yes, the future is going to be great. And when you get out, when you wake up in the morning, I can't wait to see what happens next. And I think that's, humanity going to Mars. Even if you don't yourself want to go to Mars, and most people don't, just watch it. It's a tough gig, frankly. This would not be a luxury expedition. But you'd be able to watch it happen, and I think it would just be incredibly inspiring to the world in the same way that the Apollo program was inspiring to the world. And like I said, there's got to be, life can't just be about solving one problem or another. We need things that make us excited and inspired about the future, and that would be one of them.